Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game, where today I am going to be playing a custom track that I built in the game. It is a replica of the 2011 Atlanta Supercross, and we're going to have a good old time riding this track. I'm going to talk a little bit about this track, talk probably a lot about the race that happened on this track and why I decided to build this custom track and why I'm doing this video. And also briefly about some of the news that we've also heard on Monster Energy Supercross 2 recently. I know a lot of you guys also follow other YouTubers that tend to have like news released videos about stuff like that, but I just figured I'd incorporate it in the gameplay today, and we'll have a dandy old time. You can try out this track for yourself if you feel like you want to. You don't necessarily have to love my rendition of this track at all, but it's called SYS_Atlanta 2011 on the PC, and yeah, Atlanta, man, this race was, I mean, it's got to be like this is probably one of the most talked about races in the millennium, definitely of like the last decade. So much kind of led into this race being what it ended up being. But basically, the crux of the race itself, James Stewart whole shot. This is back when he was on San Manuel / L&M Racing Yamaha, and he was pretty much on his last year of that whole gig. He went to JGR the next year. He'd won the Supercross title 2 years before that, but he was pretty much injured most of 2010, so this is not his defending of the Supercross title in any shape or form. Anyway, he gets a whole shot. He's right in front of... Initially, Reed was in third. I forgot who started up in second, but Reed moved into second. This is when he had just started his 2-2 Motorsports team. So Reed's up in second. Stewart's leading. And behind them, there's like a general mixing of, you know, riders trying to make up positions. The week before this race, or maybe it was 2 weeks before this race, Trey Kennard had just won, but he's almost like a non-factor in this race. I don't know like why he had such a bad Atlanta. Yeah, Stewart and Reed are not actually the points leaders at this time. It's Villapoto who actually has the points lead, and Dungey as the defending champion on the Suzuki rocking the red plate. Those guys don't get great starts, so it really comes down to Stewart and Reed up front, which we at this point in time really hadn't seen since like their 2009 battles. They ran into each other in 2010 when Reed rode for Cowie, and Stewart had a huge crash at Phoenix. They collided in the main event. Reed broke his hand. Stewart pulled out of the series a round later. Reed missed pretty much all of Supercross that year, came back late in the season. But since the 2009 epic battles between the two, they really hadn't had a mano-a-mano fight. And this race 100% provided, in my opinion, the like crown jewel moment of the Reed-Stewart rivalry era. It just, I mean, it ended up being incredible. But anyway, so Stewart leads early, and Reed's just kind of sticking with him. And at this time, Reed is really probably at like the top of his game that I've seen him. Maybe 2012 early season, Reed was a little bit better than where he was here. But he had just had a bunch of confidence because he won San Diego the week or 2 weeks before Atlanta. He's trying to carry some momentum in. He's a couple points off of Villapoto, who's leading the series. And he's just all over Stewart, which, I mean, obviously, if you guys are fans of motocross and supercross, you know that, like, while Reed is a fantastic rider, for the most part, Stewart, speed-wise, had him covered. Especially at the beginning of the race, Stewart would really try to get away before Reed could do anything. But this is not the case. Reed stuck with Stewart, put pressure on him, you know, couple laps in. Stewart finally makes a mistake at the end of that long rhythm section I just came out of. Stewart almost tucks the front wheel, has like this big slide moment, and saves it, but has no momentum coming across the start straight, and Reed passes him going into the next corner. And from there, it was kind of just like a little bit of a cat and mouse race. Stewart got close a few times, showed him a wheel here and there, but couldn't get a pass done. And as we moved into the second half of the race, Reed started kind of like putting the hammer down a little bit and pulling out just a comfortable gap, not huge, but it was a 2-3 seconds of a gap at least, enough that if Stewart came back on him, he would have to really charge to get to Reed. It wasn't like Reed was close enough to actually make a pass on or anything. So we're getting down late in the race. Behind them, Villapoto's moved up to 3rd. Dungy is in 4th, and they're just kind of pacing off of each other. They're about 6 seconds back of the Stewart-Reed up front thing going on. And we get to lap 18, and in my opinion, and this is again just my opinion, I really do feel this way. If this incident on lap 18 happens, we never ever have a talking point from this race, because I think with 2 laps to go and the lead he had, Reed was going to win that race hands down, in my opinion. However, in that whoop section I just went through on the 18th lap of the race, Reed has Chris Bloss right in front of him, and Bloss goes to the outside to let Reed go by on the inside. The problem was Reed had already committed to going to the far left-hand side to try to pass Bloss, and all Bloss really did was just kind of move over into Reed's line and then kind of block past him on the outside of the track. And, you know, it's not Bloss's fault. You know, he's doing absolutely everything he could to get out of the way. It's just kind of a wrong place, wrong time thing. But it slowed down Reed enough to basically just get Stewart, you know, right back on his rear tire. And here we go again. Couple laps to go. Battle for the win on hand in Atlanta. Stewart and Reed both title threats and contenders at this time. So it's all to play for. And they both have never really bowed out of going for a race victory anyway. So it's on, and the crowd gets into it, and I'm at home getting into it, and it's epicness going on as Stewart's trying to look for a way to pass him, shows him a wheel in a couple spots, can't quite get to him, and then we get to coming to the white flag right here, coming down this straightaway / into this turn. They're coming up to lap Kyle Regal on the San Manuel Yamaha, so Stewart's teammate. And Regal comes into the corner right before the finish line there, swings wide, sees that Reed and Stewart are coming, so he's trying to like stay high and in the corner and get out of the way. And Stewart kind of takes full advantage of Regal just being kind of there, comes down the inside, makes a really kind of smart pass on Reed by stuffing Reed into Regal, so like everybody had to come to almost a stop, and Stewart kind of squirted away down on the inside and made a good, nice pass going into the finish line. White flag waves. Stewart's now in the lead, and you can pretty visibly tell that Reed is unhappy. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I have the feeling that Reed thought, like Regal balked him, and that Stewart completely used Regal as like I'm gonna, use my teammate to just bank off of Reed, and I know that there's somebody on the outside of him, so I can use him as a berm. So I feel like that's kind of why Reed's like pissed off, because he's like, it wasn't a clean pass in his eyes. He didn't think it was a clean pass. So he's going back after Stewart, and I think, Stewart, I think he thought it was a good pass in his mind, but knowing how they've raced each other for so long, Stewart does a very, very valiant job on the last lap of protecting his insides. I mean, he is cutting down really sharp in every corner, just doing everything he can to just guard those insides. So if Reed does do like a cut under maneuver or anything like that and goes for him, he's not going to get him. That is all fine and dandy for the first half of the last lap, until we get to the moment that just altered Supercross history, really. I mean, it's seriously just like, it's a never-ending talking point. People talk about it forever. But anyway, so Stewart does a good job cutting inside here, blocking Reed. Reed comes like this into this corner, like he pretty much just like beelines to this inside to try to get Stewart, but doesn't get him. Stewart squeaks by on the triple. So they come through here. This is a sand section right here. They go through this section, come down here, and into this corner, Stewart scrubs the triple, lands middle, goes outside, and meets Reed right about here, where Reed had come down the inside of the track and almost clipped his foot on a tough block and just came in right here and whammo. Contact. They get into each other. They both go down. Stewart's like sitting on top of Reed's bike as Reed's trying to pick it up. you know, Reed gets his bike stood up, but Stewart's still kind of like straddling Reed's bike, and so then he's like kicking on Reed's bike to get onto his bike as they're both trying to get up, and they're both still technically leading the race at this time. And Ralph and Jeff are flipping out, and they're going, "Where's Villapoto? Where's?" And finally, Villapoto comes on through, takes the lead in the whoops, last lap, and Stewart and Reed get going side by side in the whoops just as Dungey is getting there. And so Villapoto kind of honestly has like a rather easy last lap, because suddenly there's a three-way battle for second, and no one can really like think about the fact that Villapoto is taking the lead. They're all busy dealing with each other. So lo and behold, after leading every single lap of the race, Stewart and Reed don't win. Villapoto does, gets the lead on the last lap and wins the main event. And the stadium is rocking. And so on the last lap of the race, you know, Dungey's in the mix there. Reed and Stewart are battling with each other. And this is maybe where I disagree with Stewart's sentiments on the whole situation a little bit. He is quoted as saying that he thought it was like fair play. Reed came down the inside and that Stewart didn't, you know, quote, shut the door, and that it's the last lap of the race. Reed is okay with going down to the inside. That's what he thought, or that's what he said he had thought coming over the finish line was the case, that, oh no, I left the door open, Reed took advantage of it. And then he said, oh no, wait, after the race, I saw it up on the video board as I was exiting the stadium, the replay, and he says, oh, I totally shut the door. Reed just came in, blew me out. I can't believe he just did that. And that's when you see the scene of Stewart throwing his helmet on the ground as he's riding out of the stadium, and Big James is just pointing like, go, get out of here. Like, you know, don't sit around and deal with all this crap. Just go back to the motorhome. But I tend to disagree with Stewart's sentiments of saying that he thought it was like kind of fair play, because the whole last lap, and there's a fan video that someone took from up in the crowd that shows this, the entire last lap of the race, Stewart could have probably pretty easily finished second without like anybody getting in his way. He was comfortably in second, and okay, comfortably is the wrong word. He was in second, and he had a small gap on Reed and Dungey, who were starting to kind of duel with each other on the last half of the lap. But Stewart starts looking around behind him. He's trying to like block his insides, and going into the final corner, he's looking behind him, coming across the start straight, like doing everything he can to just block whichever direction Reed's going. Like, he comes all the way to the far inside of the final corner and almost comes to a dead stop trying to block Reed. And what it does is it allows Dungey to just swing around the outside and pass both of them for second. And then Reed, at the very last second, when Stewart's diving to the inside and comes to nearly a dead stop, he swings wide in this last corner, rails around the outside, and jumps to the inside of Stewart and passes him going into the finish line and gets third. So Stewart ends up fourth, Reed ends up third, Dungey finishes second, Villapoto takes the win, and the stadium is like, the roof is blowing off the stadium. Maybe my favorite thing of watching the replay of this now is, you know, I've seen the pass happen 1,000 times probably, because it just was replayed over and over again. But there's two track workers they're both holding yellow flags, and they're standing, like, if the camera's view is pointed like straight ahead of me right here, there's two guys standing on the other side of these bales with flags looking at this thing happen, and neither one of them flagged. They both like kind of like are shocked at what just happened, and they're like looking away and like looking at the audience and stuff like that. And it's like honestly pretty funny just to watch them, because like they're supposed to flag that there's riders down in the middle of the track, and they're like way past the zone of we're going to be flagging right now. There's something chaotic happening and we're not going to be a part of it. So yeah, anyway, incredibly chaotic race. Like, it definitely goes down in history as like one of the most memorable races in Supercross history for sure. I don't know if it's like one of the greatest races, because it really wasn't much of a race until those last couple laps, and then it turned into a crash fest, for lack of a better word. But yeah, just epic stuff. And yeah, I don't know where y'all fall on the grain of the coin here, but I don't know. Like, I didn't really see anything super wrong with Reed's attempt at a pass. Was it dirty? Absolutely, but I think that Marvin's attempt at a pass on Tomac in East Rutherford was probably dirtier, and I don't have a problem with that either. So I think all is fair game right there on the last lap of the race, and it, you know, Stewart, he did try to shut the door a little bit, but it wasn't like he came all the way to the inside and like blocked the bales and all that stuff. Like Reed still had an angle to get in there. Yeah, maybe it was very aggressively, but he still got in there, and kind of like, it really almost looks like if Reed had gotten in there a little bit faster and stopped a little bit quicker, that he may have just clipped Stewart and rode out of it, and then Stewart would have crashed, and then the fans would have booed Reed forever probably. So it ended up turning into like a kind of a good defining moment of both their careers, because depending on which side you were on, whether you were a Stewart or Reed fan, you just went full bore on either side. Like if you were a Reed fan, it was like, you know, Stewart left the door wide open, Reed had every right to go down in there. And if you were a Stewart fan, you're like, Reed's a piece of crap, he just came in there and blew Stu out for the win, this is ridiculous. So like it totally, like I said, was just the peak point of their rivalry. And yeah, just an epic race to watch all the way around. And I felt like it was a good track to recreate here in Monster Energy Supercross, the game. Now, I did say I'd talk a little bit about Monster Energy Supercross 2 and some of the details we've heard coming out this week. So we posted up a video on our Facebook 2 days ago now, and it was a video of one of the Italian developers kind of discussing the new career mode aspect of the game, which he says will kind of include more of like you have to do daily tasks outside of racing. Didn't specify like everything, but he kind of talked about like, you know, personal relationships, doing social media, talking to the press, doing training, etc., etc. So that's really kind of cool to see that they're venturing out into the career mode side. And you know, some people might say I wish that they would just focus on the actual physical aspects of the gameplay, and I 100% agree and understand, but I also do think that this is something that needed to be reworked, because to be honest, the career mode in this game was pretty non-existent. It was pretty much just kind of choose your own roles, or choose your own rides and edit the bike however you want, and yada yada yada. So I'm glad to see they worked that in a little bit. Also, there is a lot of speculation going around about track editors and, you know, what's going to be involved there. I've seen a couple screenshots be posted of the track editor in game, and it looks like we're going to have definitely a couple new features. One thing that I saw was raised like corners, like you can go into the stands on raised embankments now, kind of like you can, the tracks do at Ford Field usually every year in Detroit, or that they've done at the Monster Cup in the past by going up in the stands. So that's an option. I've also seen sand as an option as well. And then from talking to the Milestone guys, or rather that, you know, one of our correspondents, Brian, talked to the Milestone guys at Monster Cup this year, they made it very apparent that there's going to be a lot more editable options with the track editor, where you can kind of design your own, you know, setups and jumps and all that business as well. So there's that to look forward to. There's the new career mode developments, and then they've come out and publicly said this week we're not that far away from seeing pretty polished up gameplay of some kind, probably a week or two away before they start actually launching that stuff out, as we are now less than 2 months away from Monster Energy Supercross 2 coming out February 8th. It drops in 2019. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep you guys updated, so be sure to keep us liked on Facebook and followed on Twitter and Instagram, so you guys can keep track of what they're doing as we pump all of their content right onto our feeds. And yeah, a little update there on Monster Energy Supercross 2, the game. So thanks guys for watching another video here. Again, try out this track if you'd like, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video here on SYS. I'm Kellen, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.